Hi, I'm Kristen, and today I'll be talking about loud voices that seem to be beamed into the mind in order to deliver a message. So, this happened to me a couple of nights ago for the first time in a very long time, and so that kind of inspired me to make this video. So, the story that I would like to talk about today happened a few years ago. So, in 2023, I was woken up by a very loud voice, and this is not like a clairaudient voice where you kind of hear it within a dream state or that kind of comes across as like a sound message. Instead, it was loud. It comes across sounding like an actual voice that is coming from somewhere else and being placed into the mind. And so this voice told me, "Anoint your home" or "anoint the home," and it kept repeating. And so the first time that I heard it, I thought, that's strange. Like, I'm not a religious person. I don't even really know what anointing means outside of it being some type of religious practice. And so I heard that and I kind of forgot about it. And so a couple months later, I once again got woken up by the same exact voice, this masculine, deep voice telling me, like, anoint the home. And the second time that I heard it, I thought, well, this must be something important that I actually have to do if there is some kind of being or intelligence that is coming to me repeatedly to say that this is something that I need to be doing. Um, so at that point, I thought, I'm going to do this, but I don't know how. And then I proceeded to forget to do it again. And so, jump to January 2024. I have a young son, and he came to me one day saying, like, "I'm afraid I saw a ghost." And so, throughout his entire life, he's always said that he's seen like shadows and shadow people. And so I wasn't too concerned about what he had seen, but I did ask him, like, what specifically did you see? And so he told me that in the doorway, downstairs in my home, he saw like a white ghost. And I said, well, what did it look like? And he just kind of put his hands up above his head, and he said, like ball. And so I kind of clarified again, like, what did you see? And it sounded like he saw some type of glowing white orb that he was calling a ghost. And so I asked him, did it have wings or anything? And he said no. And he said it poured bucket on me. And I thought, like, how strange. Like what kind of, like, what bucket are you talking about? And he ran out of the room and he grabbed like this little plastic bucket that I keep in the bath, well, right near my bath, so that he can kind of have his hair washed out with this little bucket full of water. And so he said that the ghost poured a bucket of water on his head. And like, again, I thought this just sounded so funny and so strange that I thought, like, well, I asked him, like, where did it pour the bucket? Like, on your face? And he said, like, no, like pour the bucket right on my head. And he kind of like tapped the top of his head. And so at that point, I thought, oh boy, like that sounds like a baptism. Anything that I've ever seen of like small children or babies being baptized, it's the water is poured directly on the top of the head. And as soon as that occurred to me, the message came back to my mind again of anoint the home, anoint the home. And I thought, well, they there must be a reason why all of these beings keep saying this to me and showing this to my son. And so I once again thought, I'm definitely going to do it. And then I forgot again. And so it was later that week that I was actually just scrolling through YouTube, and just on my YouTube feed, there was some creator that had 1,000 views or less on their video, and it was saying, "God came to me to tell me to anoint the home." And so at that point, I thought, well, this is getting a little bit eerie that came up. And so I did look into it, and I found out how to anoint the home. And I found out that you can get olive oil or any kind of just pure oil at the grocery store, and you pretty much just say a blessing over it. So in my case, I went and I got olive oil, and I said, Jesus, please use this oil in order to protect my home. Please allow it to keep all negative energies and beings outside of this property. And I believe I added another sentence or two to that. And then I went about anointing everything in my home, every window, every doorway, every threshold. And so I have a large, long farmhouse. So there's tons of windows and a lot of doors. And I went through one by one, just dipping my finger into the oil and using it to make a cross above every single door and above every single window that I have. And I also put it on like the door, like the little hatchway door that goes into my attic. I put it into um, the just the areas between rooms that don't actually have doors, but there is kind of like that opening between spaces. And I went and I poured oil out along the end of my driveway, And I really tried to do everything that I absolutely could in order to anoint my home and keep anything negative out of here. Um, and so once that was done, I felt it like there was some type of protective bubble, protective barrier around my home, even though I have meditated on putting a protective kind of barrier around my property. And so it's interesting that after I searched for those instructions online about how to anoint a home yourself rather than calling a priest or a pastor, that I started seeing more videos coming up on my YouTube feed, I guess because of the algorithm, but still quite strange that there were lots of smaller creators in early 2024 that were all getting this message and all getting woken up by this voice of God, or this voice of a man essentially saying, anoint your home. And I will put this in the description if I could find it. I might have saved this video, but there was somebody who was given an even longer message, and it said that there was already something happening on the earth, or there was something unleashed upon the earth at that time that people should be wary of and should protect their homes from. As if there was something kind of malicious and bad that was already kind of out there that people should be concerned about. Um, and it's interesting that I saw that more than a year ago now, and uh, I follow the I would say like the online writings and the videos of Jeff Selver. And Jeff Selver is also he's a major experiencer. He's had lots of contact with Greys. He's been shown information about his past lives. He's just very gifted, and he has also been shown kind of information about what is currently happening on Earth and what will be happening. And he also mentioned that there is something that will be occurring as far as beings walking the earth, and how important it is to kind of use your consciousness and to protect yourself and to protect your space before things start going a little bit crazy, if that is to actually happen. Um, and so that voice was happening in 2023, as I mentioned. And so a couple of years go by, I didn't really hear this loud booming voice very often. Occasionally it would come up in this kind of awake and asleep dream state. There was one time that I was woken up by the voice repeating Rafa, Rafa. And that was right before Israel started making announcements of that people should go be moved into the Rafah area in order to stay safe if they were civilians. And so I'm not sure what that message was really about either. Living in America, there's not really anything I can do in regards to some like disputes and horrible things that are happening overseas. But it was kind of a premonition message, I suppose, in that instance, that something would be happening of major importance in that area. And so cut to a couple days ago, I was woken up with a very loud buzzing, hum, vibrating sensation. I was in the middle of a dream, and in the dream that I was having, it was quite strange. And I started feeling like really drowsy and almost drugged, and everything turned into like a wash of pink within the dream. And in the dream, I felt myself kind of falling to the ground and everything blacking out as if I had been drugged. Except instead of waking up at that point, I started waking up to this buzzing in this voice, and it was a man's, like a younger man's voice, almost speaking in like a modern American accent. It was not an older time accent like I've sometimes heard. And he was just saying like my name, like Kristen, Kristen. And then at that point, the voice, because it felt and it sounded like it was being beamed into my head rather than being sent as a typical clairaudient message, it was cutting out. And so I was hearing like the almost stuttering of like when you flip through an old radio and you're turning the dial to go through old radio stations. I was hearing like that, those kind of sounds of like voices cutting through as like the station isn't really picking up, or as you're passing by a station. Except then within all of kind of like the stuttering that I was hearing, I heard craft, and then it went back to like it, and I could still feel this very strong, like energetic, like heavy kind of sensation that was being placed upon my head. And in the moment that I heard it, because I was still in this kind of partially asleep state while being woken up, I thought that they were communicating like, we want to take you onto a craft. in the sky. And at that point, I thought that it was grays or some kind of non-human intelligence that was saying we want to bring you on a craft, and I was just not picking up the message. And so my response in this strange state was like, no, I don't want to go on the craft. And I said this kind of mentally. And at that point, because I was so upset and scared about being taken, I woke up really quickly, and I it almost seemed like within a few seconds I realized like, oh, that wasn't the message at all. It seemed like as soon as I completely fully woke up and I was completely lucid, it became very clear that the message was that they were talking to me from craft. Like the message was something about like speaking to you from craft, not we want to take you on a craft. But I thought that was quite puzzling that they said my name and they kind of mentioned where they were talking to me from, but it wasn't like they had gotten to the full message of why they were talking to me, or they didn't skip right to kind of like a short, terse comment about what it is that they wanted me to know. And so I've been, for the past night and after that, I tried to kind of go back to sleep with the intention of picking them up again. And I kind of felt the tuning in, like in the buzz, the hum, and like it feels like a vibration within the mind. I felt it briefly come in and come out. And there was also a time 2 days ago after that initial dream that I was walking my son to the car in order to go to school in the morning, and I felt them strongly tune in, and I strongly felt that kind of vibrating energy hum in my head, and then it was pulled out and it was gone. So what I'm currently doing is I'm currently waiting to see what they're going to say when they come back. I don't believe that when they make these very deliberate moments of contact, especially when they do it in that manner where they're beaming the voice in rather than just commonly telepathically communicating it, I don't believe that they're just doing that for fun or to test it out or just to say hi. I think that it's usually coming with some kind of bigger message about something that we should be aware of or something that we should be doing. Um, so yes, I suppose I will have a follow-up video to this if I end up receiving that full message and I find out what exactly it is that they wanted me to know. So if you have ever had these types of messages sent to you where you can physically feel there being some type of energetic transfer or this vibration, this like almost like top of the body hum coming over you while an audible message is projected in, please let me know. I'm always interested to hear whether people are getting really significant messages or if it seems like you're getting a message that seems confusing, or maybe something that will be deciphered at a later time when it becomes more easy to understand with hindsight what it was that was being communicated. So thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.